Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for answering the polls during the break. We're going to pop up the answers on the screen now so you can see what everyone has reported. Our first question was, do you have the support you need during COVID-19? It looks like more than half of you said, you've got enough support. Then a third of you said, mostly, we've got good support. And then the rest of you said, I have some support or no support. So again, please do tell us in the chat how we can provide more support and deeper and broader support for you during this pandemic time. We are working hard to pivot everything as much as we can online, but tell us what else you need so we can make sure we're addressing that. The second poll question said, what can the Amputee Coalition do during COVID-19? And you're telling us you want to see more virtual programs, new materials, maybe more interaction with policymakers, mental health resources. And again, some of you are having other suggestions that you're going to post in the chat, and we really do look forward to reading those. You've asked, the question we asked was the third one, the best ways to engage community members who are not online. A third of you said to do it by postal mail. And then almost half of you said to do it by phone, which is a really interesting, that's a really interesting answer because, you know, we know generationally, some people love being contacted by phone and other generations do not want to be contacted by phone. So that's certainly something that we will have to look into and leverage some technology to help us do that. And again, some of you have other ideas that you're going to post in the chat before we sign off today. So I want to turn this session back to Dan Ignazewski. This is where the rubber meets the road. This session and what Dan is going to walk us through is the big finale of our advocacy forum. It's why you're here. It's to reach out to members of Congress. We are going to take action. We're going to do it together. So that for those of you, this is the first time you're going to learn it with everybody else together. We're all going to do it together. And so, Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can talk our folks through how we send messages to our senators and our representatives. Go for it, Dan.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you, Carol. I really appreciate it. You know, if this advocacy forum were in person, and for those of you who have attended our forums in the past, you know, today would have been the day that we would have had a chance to go up to Capitol Hill, share our stories, share our experiences directly with members and their staffs and have a really good conversation and dialogue about what we're requesting, why we're requesting it, and how important it is to get the services and supports that the community needs to be able to continue to elevate what we're trying to provide. And so unfortunately, you know, we're not able to do the in-person element today, but just because we can't be in person doesn't mean that we can't still engage with our senators and our representatives. So to do that, you know, some of you may be familiar with this, but we use a platform that we call CQ Engage, and it works through our website. And it's a really easy platform to be able to get your hands around and understand, but it's an opportunity to be able to interact with your members of Congress in a different way. And, you know, we're going to make sure that we give you plenty of time to do it after this. There's a reason that we did this session a little bit earlier in the day, was so it gives everybody a chance to be able to take action and engage with their members through this afternoon. So don't feel rushed that you feel like you have to keep up while I'm explaining it. But I do want to kind of go through what the engagement looks like and what you'll see on your end as you engage. And if you want to do it along with us, you're more than welcome to. If you want to save this for a little bit later, you're welcome to do that as well. But today is really the day that was meant to take action. And now is your opportunity to be able to do exactly that. So we're going to kind of walk through how to do this. We're going to go through it twice, once to show you the whole process, and then again, just a little bit more slowly to make sure that you can do it again and familiarize yourself with it. So with that, I kind of want to go to the first slide that you'll see. And what we've done is we've already uploaded a message with some text about the details of what our ask is. And as a reminder, our ask is really centered around, the thank you for supporting some of the telehealth services and supports through the COVID-19 packages and everything that way, but also to really emphasize the funding and support for the National Limb Loss Resource Center and programs that the Amputee Coalition operates, and then also to make sure that we're engaging with members around the future asks that we're going to be developing later this year around access to care. So to get started, you'll be able to click on a link in a moment here, and you're going to be able to enter your name, your contact information, your address, and the system will actually use that information automatically to send a message and populate who your senators and representatives are. So once you've filled out that initial page with your contact information, then you just hit the submit button at the bottom of the page, and then we'll move on to step 2. And in step 2, what you're going to see is you're going to actually see the message that's populated, and you're going to have an opportunity to be able to include a subject line that will be sent to all of your members. We want the subjects to be centered around what the asks are. The Limb Loss Awareness Month is, we can reference Limb Loss Awareness Month. We can reference, appropriations funding for the National Limb Loss Resource Center. We can reference access to care for people with limb loss and limb difference. There are a number of different things that you can use in that space, but we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to fill that out. So the first step is to make sure you fill out that subject line. And then if you scroll down a little bit further, we move on to step 3. You'll see a section of the engagement that will have sort of uneditable text that is the information that we've actually been able to populate. And that information it includes some of the asks and some of the messages that we just talked about, but it also helps to make sure that you have an opportunity to look in there and find out how you want to get your message across. And your message is going to be essential to making this relatable and understandable for members of Congress and their staff. So it's really important. This is one of the most important aspects of the request, is make sure that you include a short personalized message that identifies a little bit of your story, uses some of the skills and information that you've learned over the last few days, or that you've learned through the handouts that are available in the chats. And take a look at that, explain your story. And if you've been impacted, if you've received a certified peer visit, or if you are a certified peer visitor, if you run a support group, if you've engaged in the lead advocate program, if you've called our resource center to get information about living well with limb loss or limb difference, or if you've read publications like First Step or Your New Journey, those are all great examples that you can weave into your story about why there's value and need to be able to continue programs and supports for people with limb loss and limb difference. And understanding that this is a time where community is important and there's a lot of opportunities to be able to engage. This is a great time to also reference the COVID crisis and the fact that, we've had a lot of conversations around the social supports and things like that are needed in this time now more than ever. So those are opportunities to be able to engage in that section, to be able to share your message as well. So quickly, again, I want to kind of walk through the steps just so everyone makes sure that they're comfortable. Going back to the first slide, the first step here. Again, all you have to do here is click through, fill out your contact information, and make sure that you got everything right. And if you're able to share that, then we're going to be in great shape to be able to automatically populate who your representatives and senators are. So if you fill that out and then hit submit, down on step 2, what we're going to do is we're going to click in the subject line. We're going to make sure that we fill out the subject. It's really important that we make sure it's clear and understandable about what that subject is. And then from there, we're going to scroll down to the middle of the page and go to step 3. And we're going to make sure that you can fill in your message, your story, and how things have impacted you, so that we can share that message with members of Congress and their staff. And then all you have to do is at the bottom, include your name, hit submit, and that will automatically be sent off to your members of Congress. And you'll get a confirmation note on the back end of that as well, just to make sure that you've taken action and you've gotten all the information that you need to be able to move forward. So now it's your turn. You're going to see a call to action pop up on the screen, and you can click to take that action. So just like having visits with congressional offices together if we were in person, doing this and sending in this action and taking action with the Amputee Coalition, this is the opportunity to be able to engage with members of Congress and their staffs. And we're really excited that this is going to provide the opportunity to come together as a group to send a really cohesive message to members about what our asks are, raise awareness about the needs in the community, specifically, again, on those two big issues that we're talking through, the insurance or ensuring, making sure that we have funding for the National Limb Loss Resource Center, but also ensuring that we talk through access to care and making sure that legislators and members know that we're going to be coming back to them in this fall with the asks in November for some of those health packages that are needing to be passed. They were delayed and pushed out because of the COVID crisis, but that's going to provide us more time to engage with them and really identify some of those needs and work with them to make sure that we're doing the necessary studies and getting the right information. So we've sent the link in the chat and it's available here on the screen. Take the, click there, take action, customize your message with your personal story. And then we're also going to make sure that for those of you that aren't able to do it right now, we're going to make sure to send the link to you in an email as well. So we're going to stay online here for a little bit longer while you're taking action if you want to do that now. If you have other questions or you want to talk through anything, we're going to be available. You can type them in the Q&A box or in the chat. And we're going to make sure that we answer questions as best we can over the next few minutes here as we wrap up some of the Advocacy Forum pieces. If you want to see some of the slides for yourself and get some additional information, we're also going to make sure to put a copy of them in the handouts tab at the right of your screen. So I think that kind of wraps up everything that I wanted to cover. And I really want to thank everybody for taking action over the last 3 days, but especially today. Again, this is a great opportunity to take action in a virtual environment in a new way. And it's a new opportunity and a new way to engage, but it's really, really helpful to make sure that we're all sending a message consistently and as a community in coordination with the Advocacy Forum. Mary or Carol, do either of you have anything you want to add?
While Dan was talking and doing his presentation, I did the action alert. I went ahead and clicked through it and filled it out and sent it in. And so it went to both my senators and my representative. I live in Maryland, so it went to Senator Cardin and Senator Van Hollen, and it went to my member in the House of Representatives, Jamie Raskin. And the platform is great. It gave me a little message afterward that said, your message has been sent. Thank you so much. And so I will be obsessively checking my email inbox in the next day or two to see if they wrote back and acknowledged it. But this is really helpful. And, we're going to stay with you all here online over the next 10 or 15 minutes while you all activate this and get your message sent. If you have specific questions, one question just popped in. What do you want us to write in the subject line? I'll tell you what I wrote. I wrote, please support people living with limb loss and limb difference. That's what I wrote. You can customize one and make one your own. You could say, I am an amputee, or I lost my leg, or however you want to have a very short attention-grabbing subject line. You can customize it to have it be whatever you want it to be. I would caution you against using 1,000 exclamation points because that will put it into someone's spam folder. So don't type it in all caps, just type it the way you would type something normally as you were typing, and you customize it to get their attention the best way you can. Mary, anything you want to add?
I would say that I like your subject line. I also think you can say things like help people with limb loss, help a constituent amputee. There are some, however you self-refer is also helpful to put in the subject line. And then I just would say, don't overthink it. As you go in to put in your personal story, making sure that you just add in a couple of sentences that are important to you about who you are. That's what we need to do here. I know that sometimes shifting gears from listening and engaging on the chat can feel really different to them thinking, how do I want to say exactly the right thing? I would just suggest that say it out loud. If it says right, it sounds right to you in your living room, you're going to be okay. Just write down what flows for you. The goal here is not perfect. It's to communicate effectively. And sometimes, as Matthew told us earlier in the week, as Dan is saying to you now, genuineness, authenticity, these are the things that resonate with members of Congress. They resonate with each of us. A little bit of personal information allows us to connect with each other. So I would say, how is it that you might ask for someone's attention and assistance in any part of your life? That's a nice way of putting a subject line in. We can sometimes provide you a subject line in documents like this to send to the Hill, but we actually have found that it is much more effective for you to say it in your own words so that it's not perceived as being a form letter. We are only providing substantive elements so that we're not asking people, I don't believe that advocacy requires you to get a master's degree over a 3-day series of online sessions. You walked into this being an expert. You are walking into this conversation with your member of Congress being an expert. Stand in your expertise and be who you are. As a former congressional staffer, that's what swayed me. You have heard that over and over again the last few days. And I know that sometimes just shifting gears for me from listening and observing to writing can take me a second. So take a second, but don't get too overwhelmed.
Yeah, and just remember too, we talked about this a couple of times, but remember that this is an opportunity to be able to build a relationship with your member of Congress, whether this is the first time that you've reached out to them or the 100th time. This is a chance for you to be able to engage with your members and engage with their staff. And so being approachable, sharing your story, sharing your experience is really, really important in this. And it's a great way to start that dialogue. This is the first start for those of you who this may be the first time. And it's a great follow-up and can open the door for regular follow-up on issues that not just for the Amputee Coalition and what we're trying to do, but also for other issues that you're passionate about. And so it's really important to make sure that you're opening that dialogue and understanding that this is the chance to start that relationship or continue to build on that relationship.
And let me also add in here, I know that we've seen this come up in the chat a couple of times and in the Q&A box. People are either have relationships or they want to reach out, obviously, to their members of Congress, based on where they live and where they vote. But maybe they have a relationship with a member of Congress from their hometown where they grew up. And so they're asking, can I still reach out to that person too? I'll give you all a little bit of context and then I'll let Dan answer it. Senate and House offices only track responses from people in their actual jurisdiction, in their district where they vote. That actually gets measured and counted in offices. This doesn't mean you can't email those representatives separately and say, I grew up in your town, the people in that community, my family, it really matters to me that you help take care of them too. Another thing you can do is check your email inboxes because we have sent this action alert to you all via email. So I encourage you to forward that email to everyone you know and ask them to click on the link and fill it out so that you can, whether you live one place and have family and friends in another place, or maybe you have a second home somewhere else and that's a place where you're getting to know your member of Congress too, use the email form to do that we've sent you. Dan, do you have any other advice for how people can weigh in and reach out to their members of Congress in other districts or states?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that's really, really helpful is, you've taken part in this advocacy forum over the last several days. And, we've talked about how just by taking action and some of the other things that you do, you're already a leader in your community. You're already a leader in trying to elevate some of these issues and these challenges to members of Congress and to others in the community. And so, feel free to share this on your social media too. Ask your networks to get engaged and take action. Share the link, and they'll be able to go through the same process of filling out the form. They'll get the form letter, the template. They can share their message, and their message may be that they know people that live with limb loss and limb difference, and they've seen the value and the supports, and they want to support them. And so, getting support in the community is very, very important, and we're going to continue to focus on making sure that happens. But getting support within your own networks is a huge help and support to be able to expand this message even broader. So really encourage you to share it with your networks and encourage others to take action on it as well.
Mary, anything you want to add?
I think the only thing I would add here is that at the end of the message that is pre-populated, we've made sure to include at the end that it says, quote, "I look forward to hearing from you or your staff about your support for the program." The reason why we end there is so that we can help for you to begin to build that relationship. So while we often want to hear back directly from the member of Congress, opening it up to having a conversation with a staff person, that's a really great way to begin a dialogue. We're going to be providing you with some tools over the next few days to help with follow-up. Dan and I and Carol and our team here at the Amputee Coalition are also making sure that your elected officials on Capitol Hill, both in the Senate and the House, are aware of these asks, that they are supportive, and that they understand that the Appropriations Committee is considering this request. So we're going to do some wraparound support. So it'll be multi-tiered interactions with these same members of Congress, echoing the needs of our community at multiple levels and in multiple ways.
We've got a question in the Q&A box. We've got some advocates online who are from Illinois, and Senator Tammy Duckworth is a bilateral amputee, and they're wondering what specifics should I include in my message, since she is familiar with a lot of our issues.
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, there are a few members of Congress that are that have amputations and they're living with limb loss or limb difference. And so if you have a member that has experienced limb loss or limb difference, it's a great chance to be able to, in your story, reference that. You can say, I know the senator or the representative may know a lot about these issues, but I want to make sure that I share my story with you as well. Everybody's individual story is unique.
Mm-hmm.
And Senator Duckworth is different than yours. Whether it's active combat, whether it's disease related, whether it's trauma, in terms of cause, legislators may know a lot about the issues, but they don't know your story, and your story can help further connect and help people understand that it's more than just their individual lived experience. It's everybody's experience across the community. And so, sharing that, you recognize that she may be aware of a lot of these issues, I think is really valuable. But then I think it's still really helpful to be able to continue with your story and how things have impacted you and what you want to share in that space.
Dan, if I can add one thing, it occurred to me earlier this week as we were hearing from Beekeeper, from Matthew, there's a difference between sharing another person's story. So some of you know I used to work at the Alzheimer's Association. I worked really closely with people who have cognitive limitations and cognitive differences. And so for many folks that I worked with, there was self-advocacy, and I believe in self-advocacy first. There were also caregivers who presented on behalf of their loved one. I've also worked when I was on Capitol Hill with folks who have ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, where folks who are affected by that condition speak through a computer in many cases, or they're not able to speak. And I would just suggest that every congressional office wants to hear your experience, but the fact that you are a community leader, that you have been in the chat for the last few days and you're hearing other people's lived experiences, that you may be a support group leader or a certified peer visitor, it is a different thing to channel the experience or to express the experience of someone who you've communicated with and have the permission of to speak to a specific and personal experience. That's different than being an advocate and saying, I know many people in our community or in our congressional district, and some of the things that we experience as a community include challenges with access to telehealth, challenges in access to needed prosthetic devices and prosthetic care. Those things are really helpful to mention when you're speaking with your member of Congress. And there is what can at times seem like a subtle difference, but I think that most of our folks do understand the difference between sharing, if I share Carol's story versus I share the story of people like Carol and I, there's a big difference. And so you are welcome to share data points, statistics, and those things that make you a leader, and those observations that you have that are not personally identifying, but are characterizing the needs of our community. And that is, in fact, what we do as advocates.
Dan and Mary, I'll just tell you that we've got a lot of folks in the chat saying, I sent it, it went through, this was so easy.
Excellent. How
did I not know this was so easy?
That's so good to hear.
I love it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to, we all heard what you said yesterday in the chat about wanting more virtual trainings and more time together online as advocates to learn more about these issues. You also told us you want more training on storytelling and how to figure out what your short story is, and that you need help learning social media and how to do video. Again, this is new for a lot of folks. And now that we've really gone to a much more online focused way of communicating, we've heard you. And so we're going to take that back and talk about it as a team and figure out how we can help get you those supports and that training so you all can be very effective advocates. I am going to hand it over to Mary so that she can close us out for the day, but I will tell you that we are going to keep the chat function open for probably a good 15 to 20 minutes after we're done talking. So you all should keep chatting. If you have questions for us, keep posting them and we'll do our best to answer them and help you get the support you need to send these emails out today. But Mary, I'm going to turn it over to you to wrap it up and say goodbye to our friends out there.
Well, thank you so much, Carol, and thank you, Dan. I'm going to jump into the wrap up here in a second, but I want to just also mention, so some of the power in advocacy is that we have a unified ask. All of us are asking for the same thing, and all of us are asking for something that is possible for every member of Congress who is in Congress today to help us out with. So please don't hesitate to feel that your voice will be heard on a topic that is relevant and germane to every member of Congress that is sitting in the Capitol building, theoretically, but at home right now in reality. So thank you for sending those. I'm so glad it has been an easy and productive experience. We hope it is also empowering and that you are able to, in the same ways that as if you're a support group leader or a member of their PTA or a certified peer visitor, the same expertise that leads you to help other people through your volunteerism, that you are going to have the experience and the positive experience of being able to help our elected officials learn more and do better on behalf of folks living with limb loss. And that is their goal and ours. So let me say thank you to everyone who's participated in our advocacy forum. I can't tell you that when we first began to talk about how to take the whole advocacy forum and bring it online, we really weren't sure how it was going to go. We knew our intentions were good and our expectations were hard to figure out initially, but this has been a wonderful process of being able to hear from you in certain ways. And we do want to make sure that, as Carol said, we are continuing to be connected. I am hearing you about social distancing turning into social isolation. And as an organization, it is a critical matter for us to continue working to address and to engage in. As I've said each day, I believe in grassroots advocacy. Your voice matters, especially right now when Congress is making big decisions. And we're here to simply help get your voice heard. This is the first time that we have done this. And when we are back to in-person events, we may incorporate aspects of this virtual forum to expand our reach and to engage more community members, especially those who have difficulty traveling, or those who have to travel great distances, or those whose life doesn't bear out a couple of days in Washington, D.C. in the spring. We've learned a lot from this experience already, and we'd love to hear more from you. After the forum, we will send out a survey asking for your feedback on what worked well and what could work better, what additional features we can investigate for the future. Your answers will help us to better support our community during these challenging times and into the future. I hope that you feel like you learned a little more about how to make your voice heard, how the amputee community's policy priorities are being developed, and how the Amputee Coalition's policy priorities are being deployed on Capitol Hill, and how we can best work together to advocate for those priorities today and all year long. I want to give special thanks to all the people over the last few days who helped us with the Advocacy Forum. Matthew from Beekeeper, Ray from Tarplin, Downs and Young, Laura Truman from Department of Health and Human Services, our own Dan Ignazewski, and I have to say a special thank you to our host and facilitator, Carol Blymeyer. I'm very open that I am not the best multitasker, and that Carol can lead us through this with her calm, capable demeanor. And while she's juggling reading the chats, navigating the polls, and doing the Q&A, it's been a real pleasure working with Carol, and gave me the confidence that we were coordinating both inputs as well as the feedback that you all make us smarter for hearing. So thank you for that. Most importantly, it has been your engagement. It has been your participation through the chats, the questions, the polls, and now that we've just talked this through by sharing the action alert with your friends. It is your participation that makes this event successful. So I want to say thank you to each of you who joined us for the Virtual Advocacy Forum. We had over 300 people registered for the forum, and we are so grateful that you took time out of your day to learn with us and to serve your community. It's what we're all here to do. So thank you so much for being with us. As always, if you have questions about advocacy or policy, you can send them to advocacy@amputee-coalition.org. You can send us information there all year long, and Dan and his team will be there to answer them. One last reminder, the forum may be ending today, but we've recorded each session and they will be posted on the Amputee Coalition website. So if you missed one of our sessions, or you want a refresher later this year, or if you know someone who wasn't able to participate, or if you share the action alert with someone and they want to know more about your experience with the forum and they want to watch some of those sessions, all of the materials will be there, the videos will be there. We want to be here for you. Stay in touch with us today, stay in touch with us all year long. We are looking forward to hearing your success stories about reaching out to your members of Congress. And we may be back in touch with new ways for us to all be in touch with each other during these challenging times. On behalf of the Amputee Coalition staff, as well as many of our board members, our entire board in fact, but many of our board members who also participated in the Advocacy Forum, I want to say thank you to all of you. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and thank you so much for making your voice matter.